happening,
What's
people?
happening, people?
Two secs. What's happening, people? Harry here, I believe with episode number 7 of these weekly live shows every Monday, 8 p.m. Today, I'm joined by Luke and Ben. Luke, you're here first. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm doing good, mate. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm very well, thank you. You know, absolute pleasure to have you on once again. I think it's your second time, if I'm correct.
Yeah, second time on the show. More than happy to be on.
Yeah, pleasure to have you as always. Before we get started, I'm going to read out a few comments from Huddersfield Town Fan TV. Hey, Harry, big up. Nice to see you in here. And from my good friend, Trash Treasure and Trains. Hi, Harry, good to see you. Ben, how are you? We were asking when he's here. Another final comment from Trash Treasure and Trains. You do make extremely high quality combo. Appreciated for that comment. Before we get into it, quick sponsorship message. So partnership message for our new partner, SecurityVPN. The premier choice for secure and private internet browsing. With the rise of online threats and surveillance, it's become more important than ever to protect your online identity and data. Their VPN service ensures that you have to surf the internet without having to worry about prying prices. At SecurityVPN, they are committed to providing you with the highest level of security and privacy. Security and privacy. The VPN service is designed to protect your online activities from hackers, cyber criminals, and government surveillance. With their VPN, you can browse the internet, access your favorite websites, and stream your favorite shows without any restrictions. Use the code SCARFY at checkout to get 25% off your first month. And introducing the second guest, Ben. Ben, how are you doing?
Very good, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Great to have you here. Right, let's crack into it, shall we? And start with what the show was originally going to be about. I don't think it's going to last long, considering the events today, but the match reaction to that, what I would say, disappointing draw. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think disappointing draw in the end against Southampton. So, Luke, I'll start with you. I want to know your thoughts 2 days on to that draw. We'll get more depth for it, situation, the interview after, but I want to know your thoughts now, 2 days on the game.
It's hard, mate. It's hard. Like I am deep down, I'm still livid, to be honest. Looking at Spurs this season, and you think about like where we are in the Premier League still, somehow, like fourth in the Premier League. Okay, you can talk about other teams, having games in hand and all the rest of it. The one stat that matters is the points on the board, regardless of games in hand. And, looking at that game, it gave us a chance to go third in the Premier League. It gave us a chance to really start cementing our place in the top 4 for a team that is playing awful football and a team that is just somehow scraping by. To then, it end up as a 3-3 draw. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's I don't know what other excuses to start using for this team. But it's just terrible. It's terrible. I can't be bothered anymore with Spurs.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. And I think you summed it up perfectly. I think that's for us, I think it's another. How many times do you do this with Tottenham, though? Another massive opportunity, to go third, going into the international break, massive confidence boost, looks good, puts us in a comfortable place. Because if we won that, you're comfortable, going top 4. You've got the likes of, I think, Brighton, Liverpool, who weren't playing. Man United didn't play. So, Ben, your thoughts, if you can, 2 days on from that result. Do you agree with Luke?
Yeah, it was an absolute mess, if we're honest. I just don't know how. Well, I say how. It always happens to this team. To go 3-1 up against, I don't know where they are in the relegation zone, but they're in the relegation zone. With 15 minutes to go to bottle it. It's just totally unacceptable. You see, but it happens time and time again. You think Middlesbrough last season, Zagreb, no matter who the manager is, the same thing seems to happen.
Yeah, well, I agree, and we will get into that. Shout out to Jay in the chat. He says, "Hi, Harry, good to see you. Big up, great content. How are you? And is everyone okay?" Thank you for that comment. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Huddersfield Fan TV says, Southampton players fighting for their lives in the Premier League and a lot of your players running through motions, very poor. And Jay says, we just need changes. As I said, we will get on to. I think a lot of changes are needed. Ben, coming back to you, is it When you score 3 goals against Southampton, you go to St Mary's and you score 3 goals.
Yeah.
Would you, expect to win? And is it acceptable conceding 3 goals to Southampton? I mean, how do you view that?
No, totally unacceptable. Particularly, like, it's just like, how can you, like, in terms of the players on the pitch, take out the manager? Obviously we're going to get into that, but just
Oh, don't worry.
in terms of the personal pride of the players, like, how can they let such a lead like that slip? Like, well, maybe some of them, but a lot of those players are far good enough to win that game from even 1 goal, let alone 2 up. And it's just like, you'd think, regardless of the manager, you think they'd play for their personal pride, but they just don't seem to. Like, you don't get that sort of look when you watch them play. It just feels like 11 individuals on the pitch.
Yeah, Luke, do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, 100%. I think that the players aren't blameless in this, but I think it bottles down or narrows down to the fact that they just can't play this system. They can't play this way of trying to defend and sit and soak up pressure. Let's be honest, though, 3-1 up, we don't even need to do that. We just need to play a normal game of football. That's what drives me insane. Like, you don't need to go back into a back 6, back 5 with, even the attackers dropping back to make another 4, whatever it is, right? You don't need to do that. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why? I don't know why they can't do it. It's ridiculous. It's honestly ridiculous. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I agree. And Huddersfield Town Fan TV, who's Ryan, these players don't seem to care about winning. And Jay says, how can you let 3 goals in, with a good lead? Didn't need to do that. A few bad results. We need to win good results. But shame we lost Davis to injury. We will get into Davis and Richarlison, who did come off injured. But I'd like to say about that, I mean, how you can concede 3 goals against Southampton is ridiculous. You've got a manager, for me, that specialises in defending. Apparently he's an expert in holding on to leads. We play with 5 defenders. We play with defensive system. For me, it's crazy. I even went to go and watch Ipswich and try my best to kind of not switch off from Spurs, but my focus on the game. But typical Spurs, they do their best to try and ruin the day. So yeah, never as good when you find out that Tottenham have dropped 2 points. It's a game, on paper, as one of the easiest games that we had left of the season. Southampton are bottom of the league. People will say, oh yeah, they're fighting down the bottom. They'll be fighting for points. I mean, but come on, if you can't beat Southampton, who are bottom of the league, I mean, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You do realise you have scored highest goals in the Premier League. Isn't that defensive? Your thoughts on that, Luke? Do you think our problems lies with, the attack, or is it on the defence? Because some people say that our attack's not firing this season.
Yeah, but then we've conceded 40 goals this season. And the teams around us, just to put that into perspective, because I'm looking at it right now, the top teams in the Premier League: Newcastle 19, Arsenal 26, United 25, Brentford 34, Fulham 37, Chelsea 28. Like, okay, you could say we're not that defensive, but the whole point in this system is not necessarily about being defensive. It's about not conceding goals. And Spurs have conceded 40 goals this season.
Yeah, and lost 9 games.
Exactly. It's outrageous. I think that, you can't always say, oh, well, third highest goals, that means, it's not a defensive tactic. Look at how many goals we're conceding, and we aren't attacking as we could. And we scored the third highest goals playing this turgid, horrible football. Imagine how many goals we can score when we actually play football.
Yeah, I agree. Ben, agree? Disagree? Partly agree?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think, to be honest, the reason we score so many goals is just because the talent we have up front.
Yeah.
I think you could argue at the end of last season, would you have taken any other Premier League attacker out and put them into our team at the end of last season with the form they were on? You probably wouldn't. Like like people were saying, the Spurs have the best front three in the league, and I'll be honest, I don't know how he's scored so many goals when Son's not been firing like usual. It's just typical kind of Harry Kane FC. Because let's be honest, if Harry Kane doesn't tick and have a great game, we don't win.
Yeah, we'll definitely get on to Harry Kane. There's been stories released today. There's still obviously we know there's obviously that threat of him leaving in the summer. He hasn't got a long left of his contract. The likes of Man United and Chelsea need a number 9, so I think that's always a concern. But moving on, coming back to you, Ben, I want to know the big talking point, which ended up seeing us drop 2 points. Not many people like to talk about it who aren't Spurs fans. Which got that penalty saw James Ward-Prowse score, in stoppage time. For you, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's really, really clear. But is it a penalty? Can you understand where the referee's coming from? Can you understand why VAR haven't overturned? Where do you stand on it? I mean, I think it's clear, but I still want to hear your opinion.
No, I think it's a ridiculous decision, if I'm honest. I just can't understand how top-level referees can make... I could understand, to a point, make the referee on the pitch making a decision, but for the VAR official to not obviously see that that's not a penalty, I just can't understand it. Like, I mean, obviously I've got a Spurs hat on, but I can't see where Sarr touches him in that sequence, if I'm honest. But if that, he's pretty much falling over before Sarr's leg gets near him anyway. I just don't understand how top-level referees can make... Well, I say top-level, they're not really top-level because none of them are any good. Just don't understand how they can make these poor decisions week after week. Well, you, me and Harry, we've discussed this. You shouldn't put yourself in that situation to rely on that decision when you were 3-1 up against Southampton anyway, but it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. And Luke, before I come to you, I just want to say, for me, I don't know how that's not a penalty, but referee, the referee's not the one I have a problem with, right? Because referees make mistakes. He's given the penalty, didn't have the best view of it, fine. But VAR's job is to overturn clear and obvious errors or mistakes, whatever you want to say, by the referee. And for me, there's no contact, therefore that's a clear and obvious mistake. I personally believe that this comes under what I'm going to say, the lack of experience from Sarr. But I think he's a little bit lazy and poor defending for me in that situation. He's got to go with his head. He's got to protect his body and win the free kick. I think you have someone like Kane in that situation. They win the free kick and, we win the game, little things like that. But at the same time, and like you say, Ben, we've discussed this, I know, but we shouldn't have to rely on that. And this isn't an excuse. But for me, how anyone can say that a penalty, I mean, must have a massive agenda against Tottenham because there's not hardly any contact in that. And for me, people say, oh, it's harsh. It's not harsh for me. It's a dive. Luke, do you agree? Or, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I think you got it spot on there about Sarr. Sarr's lack of experience there. You see it takes him 4 or 5 seconds to wind up to try and clear the ball. And the ball is roughly head height. And, he goes in with his head. He wins a free kick, every day of the week. Do I think it was definitely not a penalty? 100%. But do I think there was a clear and obvious error? I'm still not sure. I can understand why VAR didn't overturn it because of the action involved, the, high foot from Sarr, the, dramatic dive from Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing that drives me more mad about this performance is that we let 2 ex-Arsenal players, do 2 things in the game, which,
that hurts.
really did change the game. And, you can talk about Theo Walcott all you like, but, it still hurts the fact that he used to play for Arsenal. Now he's still scoring against us now. But I don't know. I think the decision was awful. But once the referee pointed to the spot, there's no other way that doesn't get given as a penalty, because depending on who you are, I still have seen some people who aren't Arsenal fans, who are other fans, that have said, well, it is a penalty, but I've seen other people say it's the worst decision they've ever seen. So I'm not going to get into conspiracies and all the rest of it and this and that. It's not my game. I think that's poor and, just kind of clutching at straws, really. But I just think we don't help ourselves in any way. There was no need for us to be sat so far back. There's no need for us to, do any of that because, if we remember before that, I think it was Seiko Mara maybe for Southampton, if I got his name right, had a run through the box, jinked back and forth. There was a couple of saves made, clearances. It wasn't just that one moment. There was moments before that got you worried. And I've got to hold my hands up to Southampton and say the changes that they made were outstanding. And I felt that they really, really did trouble us. But there's no way we need to be in that position. No way in a million years that we need to get to that point. But again, it's classic Tottenham. And we have to just move on from it, don't we?
Yeah. And before we move on, I'd like to pin up this comment from Huddersfield Town Fan TV, Ryan, who says no consistency with VAR. The quality of refereeing is awful in this country. Before I get your opinion on VAR, I put out a couple of tweets. One in particular that got a lot of attention, basically saying, how I thought that penalty was ridiculous. I think I said I'm sick of referees in this country. I said I don't think VAR's improved the game. I supported the idea when VAR was first introduced. I still support it now, but I believe it's been used in the wrong way by the wrong people. And VAR, right? You listen to the likes of Shearer, who bangs on about VAR's only here for clear and obvious things. For me, that's clear and obvious. When there's no contact and you're given as a penalty, I mean, fair play to Southampton player, the way he wins that penalty. He's clever. He knows Sarr. He's young, lack of experience. He's put his foot up high. He's seen that. So he moves towards Sarr, goes down. Very, very clever. If you watch that back, there's no contact there, as ridiculous as it is from Sarr. Luke, has VAR improved the game? Do you still support the idea? Did you support the idea?
I think I support the idea, definitely. But I like the idea of it. I also like the idea of goal line technology. I like the idea of anything that, can make it better. But, let's look at the Richarlison offside against Forest, right?
That's never offside.
That wasn't offside
never
either.
Offside.
There's a big difference between what happens in Europe and what happens in the World Cup and other things like that. If you notice what they were trialing at the World Cup, they were trialing the kind of... I don't even know what you call it, but, where the video image comes up and you can see the line and whether somebody's body is over that and so on. I don't know what that's called, but I also think that, time wasting and other things like that at the World Cup, I was really impressed with it. I was more than happy to see 14 minutes added on at the end of the game if a team decided they wanted to waste time and things like that. I was more than happy for things like that to happen. And, ways to try and make this game better. It's not really VAR that I have a huge problem with. It's probably the technology, because I don't think it's still up to standard, in which it should be. In a modern age where we can create pretty much anything that we want in this world, they can't create a system that actually works correctly to deem if someone is offside. But also, there has to be some kind of technology that can implement whether there's been any contact. And things like that.
I agree.
You also have to look away from technology and also look away at your own, visual aspect of these things as well. And think about, when a player likes to drag their foot towards a defender to create the contact. For me, none of that should be awarded as penalties. The way that people try to deceive referees, try to deceive the way that things happen. And there was a few shouts in that game, for handballs as well. Let's not forget, when we were on the attack, where, the ball's too close to the player or, the strikers come so close that they actually can't deem that as a handball based on that. But I always look back to Marcus Rashford against PSG a few years ago when they deemed it was a handball and United went on to beat them and knock them out of the Champions League. So it's so inconsistent across all levels that they just need one regulating body to come in and create it for everyone. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, and they're not going to get rid of it anytime soon. And the other thing to think about is, again, no matter what technology you have, you're always going to have a person's perception on what they believe is right and wrong. And it doesn't matter whether the technology is there or not, because there will always be a human being using that technology, and
Yeah.
therefore you will always have human error.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. It's hard to disagree with you there, to be fair. But I think personally, Ryan from Huddersfield Town Fan TV hits the nail on the head in terms of saying, like, basically what I said, no consistency with VAR, the quality of refereeing is awful in this country. But Ben, before we move on, do you agree with Luke? Would you have anything additional to say?
Nope, not really. I don't know. It's just same old every season. I don't think there's much wrong with the technology. I agree. The semi-automatic offsides they use in Europe, I don't know why we can't have that in the Premier League. I honestly don't know why. They've got to bring that in next season because it's ridiculous, the offsides you see nowadays. At least with that technology, it's a lot clearer to see, is what I find with that in the European games and the World Cup. At least you can maybe understand it a bit more. You might say, well, it's harsh, but you can understand it a bit more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that would just be a much better way of them doing it. I just don't know why they haven't brought it in yet, if I'm honest.
There you go. Thank you both. Moving on. This is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a lengthy topic. I want to know, starting with you, Luke, your thoughts on Conte's interview. Do you agree with him? But actually, before I come to you, I'd like to say, as critical as I have been over the last 24 hours, 48 hours, weeks, with Conte, I think he spoke absolute facts in the interview, and the majority of what he said is true. I agree with what he said about the players, especially, a lot. I think he's basically saying what a lot of us Spurs fans have known for a long time, and the majority of the fan base can agree on. It's just that the way he's done it, and you don't expect a manager to do that who's currently, who's in charge of the football club. For me, it's unprofessional, and he didn't admit. He didn't apologize because he can't see. I don't know if it's delusion. I don't know if he's covering it up. I don't know if it's because it's in his eyes, his body, that he's part of the problem for me. Because at the end of the day, people say, oh, the players are the ones on the pitch. But at the end of the day, he's the one who chooses the team. He's the one who chooses the tactics. And that is what's failing right now. But Luke, do you agree with what Conte said? And do you agree with the way he's done it? Because I agree with what he said. I think he's done it the wrong way. I think it's disrespectful. But Luke, fire away.
Antonio Conte is the biggest moron that I've ever seen. Honestly, I genuinely believe this. Like, Harry, you know me quite well, right? And even prior to us meeting and working together, I have been Conte out for a long time, right? And I'll start with the beginning on Conte. Okay, so this might take a minute, so just sit back, everyone. So Antonio Conte is a serial winner. Okay, serial winner. In a sense of, he knows how to win a game, he knows how to set up a team, and he's renowned for, being a checkbook manager, right? With Tottenham Hotspur, he hasn't just been here overnight. He hasn't just been here for 5 minutes. He's been here for nearly 18 months, and he still can't get these players to play his way of football, his style of football. He changed the tactics once, and it didn't work. So he went back to, his standard, what he knows best. I think that was against United, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And what he has done is made this team worse than we were. We can all sit there and praise him. Well done. He got top 4 for Spurs. What an achievement that was. Mauricio Pochettino got us top 4 5 years in a row, playing progressive attacking football. Now, that's not saying that what Pochettino did is better than what Antonio Conte did, but there's no way you should praise a man for doing something that a man half your age has done. Well, he's probably not half his age, but you know what I mean? Done time and time and time again with probably what could be a worse team than what Pochettino... the worst team than what Antonio Conte has now, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, going to what Antonio Conte said, I don't disagree with what he said.
I
right?
love Ben's facial expressions.
I don't disagree with what Antonio Conte has said. I don't disagree that the board are to blame for some of the failings of Tottenham Hotspur. The next thing to consider is, what are the failings of Tottenham Hotspur? What are those failings that have happened in the last 20 years? The fact that they've progressed us as a football club to a top 5 dominant club in the Premier League season after season after season, built one of the best stadiums and training grounds in the world. Expanded our business sense where there's streams and revenues of money coming out of our ears. What have they done to Tottenham Hotspur that's so bad? Or have the Tottenham Hotspur fan base got a little bit carried away with themselves and a little bit too big for their boots and actually believe that we are a title-winning team now based on what? That expectation level of fans based on what? Why should we be challenging for Premier League titles? What have we ever done to stand there and say we should be challenging for Premier League titles? Nothing. We got top 4 a few times and got in the Champions League, got to one final due to a few, lucky strokes here and there. Talking about Ajax, talking about the offside goal last minute, against Man City. The Llorente probably handball that probably nowadays would get overturned, so we probably wouldn't even get to that semi-final. There's so many things, right? So that run was really lucky. What have Tottenham Hotspur ever done to get to that point? Now, I don't disagree with fans that say that they haven't spent enough money. Spent enough money on the basis of what? The basis of winning the league. Of course, they haven't spent enough money. But where they have progressed us to as a football club is much higher than many fans have seen in their lifetimes. Talking about winning Premier League titles and winning European Cups 40, 30 years ago, the world of football has changed and people need to realise that. There weren't oil money in football. There wasn't Premier League, TV rights. There wasn't lots of these things, and lots of teams won the league year after year. Lots of different teams also won European Cups, like Nottingham Forest. Look how far they fell. There are all these things you take into consideration. But anyway, going back, Antonio Conte wasn't wrong, but it's also a line that you don't cross. And there's a reason for that, because rival fans use this as a joke, use this as, a talking point about Spurs. It's the history of Tottenham, that old Chiellini thing.
It's true.
And then he's used that and turned it on ourselves. And that, to me, is a line that you don't. There is no chance that this man is our manager at the end of this international break. He's already in Italy at the moment. There's no chance that Daniel Levy keeps him. And I've said it all along. And, it's just waiting for people to tell me that I was right.
Yeah, fair play. Ben, before I come to you, I'll give credit where's credit due. We will agree on things and we will disagree on things. I think that will always be the same. But I may get the odd prediction right, but where you have been right is in terms of Conte. You said it from the start. You did, and people like myself, I challenged you. Personal opinion, think I on the day maybe won that debate, maybe, but looking back on it now, you were right all along. But as I said, before I come to you, Ben,
I just want to answer this question from Ryan.
Yeah, go on.
Where he's saying, am I happy settling for top 4? Of course I'm not happy settling for top 4, right? Never once did I say that. All I'm saying is that the expectations should be at a level of where we are as a football club. We aren't at a level where we can win trophies. And, they did win a trophy, under Levy's reign, a Carabao Cup. But, that's not what I am happy settling for. I'm just realistic in terms of where we are. And it's going to take longer. This whole thing of winning trophies through owners that spend lots of money has only come about in recent years. And prior to that, it was just the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United that dominated everything. And people forget about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you, Luke. And before I come to you, Ben, I'm also going to go off on one, and this is going to be 99.9% aimed at Conte, right? So how Conte can still say now, and he said it the whole of the season, I think it's disgraceful, disrespectful, sickening, all the names. He thinks that it's just him that got top 4 this season. I mean, that's disrespectful to to the board who backed him in January. Bentancur and Kulusevski were, for me, the key part of us getting the Champions League qualification spot. It's disrespectful for the players who worked his socks off for him to turn around, got top four for Spurs. He actually thinks, this is how deluded he is, right? He thinks getting top four for this club is like winning a trophy. When Pochettino, like Luke says, done it for 5 years, and I'm convinced Pochettino had a worse squad, and you can't really argue with that. He had a squad that wasn't invested in. There was no money. Ben, you can disagree, you can shake your head, but no money was spent under Pochettino. But I'll get statistics are out later. I've got statistics to back me up on this. But money's been spent, whether recruitment's been good or not. Conte's been given what he wants, and we all thought, including myself, I reckon, as fans. I want to know what you think, but. We finished top four, credit to Conte. For me, it's mainly the players that have done that. They worked his socks off for him. Yeah, perhaps he picked the team and that goes towards top four. I don't really put it on him, but, well, congratulations on your top four trophy, Conte. Goes in your CV. But this season, having spent, nearly 150 million in the summer, and people will say, the recruitment's been poor. And I'm one of the ones who does say that. But we signed what I call big profile players, or big players that people wanted. Basuma. Fans going absolutely crazy when we signed him. City wanted him. United wanted him. Chelsea wanted him. We got there first, and for a bargain deal as well, I think around 25 million. Perisic, it's a clear Conte signing. People went mad when we signed him. Oh, he's gonna win the Golden Boot. I mean, how people can say that his age is ridiculous. Who else do we have? Richarlison. I mean, the price tag says it all. That's another big name. January, Pedro Porro. I mean, he signed those big names. I expected to challenge, not win the title, because I know what we're like, but I expected to finish second or third and probably win a trophy. And I'd go, fair enough, that's the average. I go, fair enough, you've done that. And people will say, how can you expect a lot? But I think credit where credit's due. I think Levy, I'm going to say backed, but definitely got his hand out his pocket for once. Got the money. I think the money's always been there. I think it's just been the recruitment, to be honest with you. I think the recruitment was better. I just think he's arrogant now that he comes out and says, like in that interview, not one apology. If I'm the manager, and I wouldn't be as disrespectful as he would, but I'd turn around and say, at the end of the day, I'm the one who picks the team. I'm the one who's tactics. Perhaps it's me that's the problem. I think he is a huge problem. But Ben, I want to know your thoughts on that. 99.9% of my blame is on Conte. He annoys me day by day. The more I want him gone. But Ben, far away. Apologies for both our rants.
What I would say, Harry, is you said just there about he's one who picks the players, but what other options does he have? Particularly the injuries at the moment. What other options?
He can go for a back four.
He can change the formation for a start, and he can have more trust.
Who's going to play at left back?
Well,
obviously,
Davis would play at left back unless he was injured.
You could have said Davis. Fair enough, you could say Davis, but we don't have the midfielders to play it. We don't have a attacking mid to play a back.
But we don't need an attacking midfielder really. If Harry Kane decided, if they decided, we'll play Harry Kane as an attacking midfielder, or Richarlison could play in that position. There are options where players can move into that. This whole using that we don't have players, I don't buy it. But,
when things aren't working, you've got to change things. The system is not working. What is he seeing? I mean, it's absolutely insane that he's continuing to play the same formation, continuing to say, but I got top four last season, the top four trophy. It's disrespectful to the club. Does he not realise? Pochettino got us to a Champions League final 5 seasons in a row, finishing fourth. He thinks that he's come along to a small club. If he thinks he's come along to a small club and basically won a trophy and get top four, then he is really, really deluded and he needs help, seriously. Ben, do you agree with him on the interview?
But you say that, but Richarlison played up front against Sheffield United and was absolutely crap.
First chance, he was poor, but it's a lack of minutes. Again, that comes down to the manager. Wherever you try and go, people try and take all these crosswords. People say everything comes back to the board. For me, everything goes back to Conte. You may disagree though, Ben. But do you agree with what he said? Do you think it's unprofessional?
Here's one for you, Ben. Sorry, why can he not play a 4-3-3 and have 3 central midfielders and play it that way, with Kane up top and Son and Kulusevski on the sides. He could play Emerson Royale at right back. He could even test Pedro Porro at right back if he wanted to. There are options there to be able to do it. The thing with a 4-4-2 is, in my opinion, it limits the pressure on the back four in terms of, Eric Dyer playing as that central player. He would only have to play on the left-hand side, or you could have Clement Longley playing in that position, which is the preferred one. I think it works better. I think it would work better, I think, with 3 holding midfielders or 3 with 1 that can progress forward. Because if you look at Højbjerg and Denmark, he does progress forward. So actually, you could have Skip and Sarr with Højbjerg. There are options there. My point is, sorry, Ben, because I have gone on one now, is that there are options to change it. So that I don't, I don't know.
But in my opinion, I think, well, obviously he has always played a back 3 in his career, but I think it partly doesn't change it. It's because the defenders aren't good enough to play in a 4. I don't think the defenders are good enough to play in a 4. I think they need, as bad as they are, even with it. I don't.
Why
think
play with an extra defender when you can't defend? You're playing with an extra defender. How's that work? You tell me.
He's another body.
Right, go on.
They're so bad.
Yeah, but we're playing with an extra defender. You said we can't defend. Why not play with 4? It's 1 less defender, one more attacking player.
Well, because then it's even worse players and less of them to defend.
Maybe that's interesting.
I would say, Luke, I wanted to. You said about getting top 4 in terms of sort of people not appreciating maybe what Levi Ninik had done. Yeah. I see some arguments to that. But what I would say is we started getting in the Champions League under Harry Redknapp, 10, 12 years ago. And could you argue, have we really pushed on since then, is what I would say. The only counter.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. But, my argument to that is, that first year we got it under Harry Redknapp, that was a big achievement for Spurs, being able, and my point is that over those years, okay, maybe 10 years is too long to be cementing your place, but as a club, we have cemented our place as a top 4 team, and cemented our place as when people look at that table and they see City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, and Spurs, they can't always pick who's going to finish in that top 4, and Tottenham often get talked about in that thing, and that's the difference, I think. But you are right. We should be winning things. I'm not taking this away from the board at all, because we should be winning cups. We should be winning something. But and
Harry, what I would say, you say about Conte saying top 4 being a miracle. I think
it's not.
I see why that people think that might come across as sort of a bit patronising. But I think that's more of a shot at the board. I think that's more him saying for the club, top 4 is a trophy. Like Daniel Levy is not going to have sleepless nights because we not won a trophy as long as we've got top 4. Is what I think that's what he means by that. Is for the club, top 4 is a trophy.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Thank you both. I'd like to pin up this comment from Ryan. I mean, I love his content. He's in here a lot. I respect him a lot, but I'm going to call him out here. This is based on what I said earlier when I asked that he should apologise. Apologising for what? The players have to take accountability. Let me remind you, so you clearly have an agenda against Conte. Yeah, I do have an agenda against Conte. I don't have a problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But where I'm going to call you out is, you were saying apologising for what? I mean, it must be because you're not a Spurs fan. You obviously don't know as much about Spurs. Fair enough. That's not your fault. But I think that for me, you're the manager. You put the team out. You choose the tactics. It's not working. Like Luke said, you've had 18 months. And it's not working. We've gone backwards this season. How people can say, oh, we're still in 4th. But come on, we've lost 9 games. Every team around us, most teams, should I say, around us, bar Fulham, have lost less games than us. I mean, how we're 4th. Brighton, for example, you may not know this, or you may. Brighton have 3 games in hand. If they win all 3, they go 2 points above us, right? Newcastle, game in hand. Liverpool now, game in hand. Every team behind us has at least 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, like Brighton, games in hand. It's worrying. And apologising for what? I mean, it means he's the manager. He's the arrogant one. I mean, he is, for me, part of the problem. But moving on, great discussion there. Moving on slightly. I want to start with you, Ben. We'll come to predictions if Conte leaves sacked. But I want to know, would you? I mean, I know your answer, Ben, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Would you sack Conte in the international break, considering we've got 2 weeks, we've got time to bring a replacement in, and if so, would you take Ryan Mason to the end of the season? Go.
In terms of it's a very difficult one. If I'm honest, it all depends on how the players react to what he said. Because if the players react badly, then obviously, in terms of getting top 4, then that wouldn't happen regardless. But if I'm honest, if Mason comes in, I think it's going to. There's not a disrespect to him, but I think will implode and potentially even finish 6th, 7th, in my opinion. Because I know true, but at the moment, as bad as it all is, we are still 4th. I know you say games in hand, like Brighton, for example, but they just drew 2-2 of Leeds, who are like right at the bottom of the table.
We wouldn't beat Leeds though. Southampton bottom of the table. We couldn't beat them though.
I might get yelled at for this, but I think we're overachieving with the team we have at the moment, if I'm honest. But
stop there. Hang on, not letting you go any further. Overachieving. Right. Last season, I think Conte overachieved. Slightly, 0.1% overachieved with the squad. Fair enough, got top 4. I mean, how he thinks it's just him that got top 4, I think he's an idiot personally. But this season, he's massively underachieving. This is the best squad we've had for ages. I mean, you can shake your head. You're shaking your head again. You've got players like Son, Kane, Kulusevski, Lloris, players that loads of teams around the country, nearly every team around the country would have and get straight into their team. Yeah, we've got players like Davis Dyer that perhaps shouldn't still be here, but overall, people call me deluded today. I think overall that squad should be good enough to get top 4. And I think he's massively beyond belief. I mean, how he can call himself an elite manager. I mean, for me, he's massively underachieving. I mean, if you want to be overachieving, that's winning the league and winning a trophy as well. With the squad we've got, considering how bad teams have been this year, we may be 4th, right? But if Liverpool were at their best, Chelsea are at their best, Newcastle, for example, next season, I don't know, we would be completely different situations. The likes of Liverpool and Chelsea are pretty much keeping Conte in the job. But sorry, Ben, I had to interrupt you there because I think he's massively underachieving. But no, keep going.
The only reason this team is able to get 4th, in my opinion, is how poor the rest of the league around us is at the moment. Like I know what you said about Kane, Son, Kulusevski, but I know the squad wasn't great. But under Poch, we had Alderweireld for Tottenham. We had 2 competent defenders, which we only have 1 nowadays, who get sent off every couple of games. And he had a decent fullback for a number of years. I know Trippier wasn't on Walker's level. He was still decent. We had Danny Rose for most of the time was still good enough. Then we had Dembele, and Dembele only went, the January of the Champions League final. We had people like Ericsson, who, let's be honest, made the whole thing tick. And we had then the players like Kane and Son we still have now. I think the team we have now, I think only 4 of them would get into that Pochettino team, and 3 of them are still here.
Yeah, fair enough.
And because in my opinion, if you go through the team, I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly who played. If you go through the team, this sort of general team, now Fraser Forster, obviously Lloris is injured, but he's done well. We'll give it that to him. Yeah. Kane, fine. Son on form, fine. Kulusevski on form, fine. Richarlison, not good enough. Højbjerg, he's good enough for top 4, nothing higher. Skip is a kid. Let's be honest. Like Skip, he's going to have inconsistent performances. He's still a kid. He's going to have inconsistencies, like Saar, the penalty. He's not got experience. He's got to get experience somehow, and that's bad luck with Bentancur and Basuma being injured, which is just bad luck, if we're honest. Porro, we can't say we can already see he's good going forward. How good is he defending? We don't know. It doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look brilliant. Perisic cannot defend. And then we've got Davis, who is an average defender, better than some. But Davis cannot. But we have no attacking outlet. When, for example, against Chelsea, when Davis and Emerson on the wing backs, I know they've done well, but they can't cross the ball.
Yeah, fair
They
enough.
cannot cross the ball. And then you've got Dyer, and then you've got Longley, who is one of the weirdest signings, let's be honest, was only brought in because they didn't get the players Conte wanted. And then, so in my opinion, Dyer and Longley and Davis, etc., I don't think they'd look out of place in the bottom half Premier League team.
Fair enough. Luke.
Just one thing I want to bring up, is I've just read on Twitter that Matt Law has said that as an exclusive, Tottenham are expected to agree Conte's departure this week.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We'll get 2 seconds and we will get into the prediction when we think that's going to be. Fantastic. Thank you. It's made my day. Ben, you won't like that, I know. Luke, would you sack Antonio Conte during the international break, regardless of all the news? Would you sack him for the, that means bringing Ryan Mason in until the end of the season? I mean, how do you feel about that? Is it an upgrade? Far away.
I don't really like Antonio Conte, if anyone hadn't guessed, but I also don't really
I didn't know that, Luke.
I don't like this whole thing that Spurs do. I'm very surprised that they'd sack him because of financially. They have to pay him regardless. So to me, I would expect Spurs to just let it run out. I think his comments, haven't helped that. I don't really like Ryan Mason. This whole thing about Ryan Mason coming in, but who knows if he's learned anything different from
hopefully
from before. Obviously being under Conte, but. I don't see it as a surprise one bit. I think that I'm not surprised. I think as soon as you start throwing everybody under the bus like he did, and his comments, as much as he said apparently to the board that it wasn't directed at them, it was directed at the players, using like an example of 20 years. Yeah. There's no way it wasn't directed at the board.
Rubbish.
There's no coming back from that. It's like, tell you what it's like doing, right? It's like working for a company, knowing that company is done wrong, and then going to like the newspapers and selling your story to the newspapers about what wrong the company has done, and then claiming that you didn't mean it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Yeah, and thank you both, and give my quick summary of that. I personally, I would sack Conte this week, and I think bringing Ryan Mason in is better. Personally, I think that because I think if Conte has, which I think he has, lost the dressing room, that's basically impossible to get top 4. I mean, players won't play for a manager who's lost the dressing room and they don't believe in. I mean, I'm surprised that they've played for the amount of time, considering it's only a matter of time. We know Conte's leaving in the summer, so we might as well depart ways and give that new manager bounce. Ryan Mason, young, he's someone who the whole team respects. I know Kane respects him. So for me, I think that's better. I'm going to make a prediction. I said this morning, I'm going to stick by that. I think Conte will be sacked Wednesday when they can bring in a replacement. I believe that I could be wrong, but talking to potential managers, whether that's to come in the summer or to come in now, but I'll be happy with Ryan Mason to the end of the season. I mean, it's not what you want in top 4 battle on paper. Conte would be the one to get top 4. But if you think about it, I mean, anyone who's lost a dressing room, I mean, you're not going to get probably top 4 with a man who's lost dressing room. And I've got a couple of statistics here. This is just sums up me. Done a little bit of research. There's another little dig at Conte. A bit of statistic here. I don't know if either of you know this. Conte earns roughly just over 41,000 every day and nearly 288,000 every week. I mean, that gives me less sympathy for him. I mean, he earns 50 million a year as well. But start coming to you first, Ben. Actually, I want to know your top 3 options. You can do it in order if you like. You don't have to, but your top 3 options. I keep using the word if, but I'm now going to replace it to when Conte leaves. Let's say this week. I mean, if you could get them, I mean, it's a completely another story, but who would be your top three, regardless of how difficult it is?
The problem with this is I don't.
Oh,
In this,
Interesting. Keep going.
he's on mute.
We've lost Ben's voice for a minute, so I'll come to you first, Luke. Your top three, when Conte departs, let's say it's going to be this week. Hopefully get Ben back in a second. So who'd be your top three?
It is difficult, as Ben
I
was
know,
saying. I think that, again, those that know me, those that watch my channel, know that I am 100% sure that Mauricio Pochettino is the next Tottenham manager. 100% sure. I don't think that there are going to be any other candidates that get the job, but top three, without sounding like everybody else, probably I would say Pochettino, Luis Enrique, and Gallardo would probably be would be those managers that I could see happening. But it doesn't really matter who the other two are, because I've said this, since November, that Pochettino is the Spurs manager in the summer, 100%.
Yeah, Ben, go on. Your top three. Now I've got that.
See, I want Pochettino back. Of course I do. I'm sure every fan wants Pochettino back, but I don't want him back under this ownership, because I think it will ruin his legacy, because I think it won't go down well. And I truly believe if he comes back, unless they change their ways, which if they're not going to do that for Antonio Conte or Jose Mourinho, they're not going to, I'd feel it will ruin his legacy at Spurs. In terms of that, take all of that out, it would be De Zerbi, Poch, or the third one's quite tricky. I mean, if you're talking more gettable ones, then it would be Thomas Tuchel not Thomas Tuchel, because I think he's going to go Real Madrid in the summer. I see what you mean, Harry, with Thomas Frank. I just don't know why he would leave Brentford. He's being backed by his club.
Exactly, yeah.
Recruitment. But
yeah, definitely.
I would say the thing is with De Zerbi is we don't have the players for his football. And so it's the same thing with Conte. We don't have the players for their football. And ultimately, the board are going to have to change their ways and give them a manager, no matter who it is, the players for their football, or the same thing will happen. Because Conte
it works easier under Pochettino, though, because we only need a left-footed centre back, a top-quality left-footed centre back. We would need a goalkeeper, and then we would need an attacking midfielder. Like, that's all we would need, because he can work with Spence, he can work with Skip, he can work with Sarr, he can probably work with Udogie, Pedro Porro, Richarlison. I'm sure he could find a role that can suit him. I think that there would be less expenditure, and he would only come, in my opinion, on the the fact that Daniel Levy would be groveling back to him in a sense, and it would be showing that that he did make a mistake. And that's the 1% of me that thinks it might not happen, because it would have to be Daniel Levy saying, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
But it would have to, I believe he would get like a 5-year contract or something. I think it would be a long-term contract if it was.
At the end of the day, it was just a mistake sacking him in the first place, and it was just a waste. It's just been a waste of the past 4 years.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Shout out to Jude in the chat. It says, evening, Harry. Thank you for being here. Quick summary of mine on that. What I find actually frustrating is I believe that Porro, I believe that Udogie, who comes back on loan for next season, was bought for the long term for Conte. He must be, wing back. And the thought, Conte's not going to be here for Udogie, so we're going to need players that Porro and Udogie, can they play, in the left back, right back slot? Jude says, sorry, Ben, I just woke up. Fair enough. Hello, Ben and Luke. A shout out to Jude for being in the chat. But yeah, my top three, Thomas Frank, I'm a big fan of. But like you said, Ben, why would he leave Brentford? Why? The recruitment's perfect. Everything's going well. I mean, he wouldn't leave Brentford this season when Brentford have got a chance to play in Europe next season. De Zerbi would be probably Actually, no, Pochettino, I'm going to put in there. Unfinished business at Tottenham, should have been sacked. Third one for me is between De Zerbi, who, why would you leave Brighton when you're in the semi-final of the FA Cup and you could be playing? I mean, I seriously believe that they could be potentially playing Champions League football next season. I mean, games in hand, win them all, they go 2 points above us. I think that we could be certainly talking Europe, but Champions League's a possibility. Why would he leave then? Recruitment's fantastic as well. Again, Brighton. Third one, as I said, is between that De Zerbi and also Ruben Amorim from Sporting. I quite like. I don't want to see it go for the likes of Enrique or Tuchel, who I put them under similar category of Conte, Mourinho in terms of the big names. Some may say chat, but managers. I think I'm sick of that. You can go for the young progressive coach in the Vincent Kompanies, in the Ryan Masons, in the Michael Carricks, in the Yaya Torres. Or you can go for what I call the medium term, but decent in the Thomas Franks, in the De Zerbis, in the Ruben Amorons, in the Pochettinos. But don't go for me anyway, the short term big Enriques and Tuchels. But comment I want to bring up before we move on, just to slightly move away from this. We'll come back to it, but I want to talk about this. Chile says, "Hi guys. Do you think Kane will leave in the summer?" Luke, will Kane leave in the summer for you? And can you blame him?
It rests on one thing happening, and that is Manchester United getting an owner such as the Qataris buying out Manchester United. Yeah. That's the only way that I see Harry Kane leaving. Daniel Levy is going to demand 100 million for Harry Kane. He's not going to demand it over 5 years. 3 years, 100 years. He's going to demand it up front in cash, probably in a briefcase, delivered to him. The reason why I say someone like the Qataris is because I can see them coming into United and making a marquee signing,
just doing it,
and and saying, "We're here. This is what we've come to do." And not being afraid to spend the cash up front. Again, though. This is why I also have believed for a long time that Pochettino will come back, because I believe he's the only person that can convince Kane to stay. I believe that they have a very, very good relationship. And I might be wrong. I don't know Harry Kane in the slightest, right? But he doesn't go abroad. He doesn't go anywhere else. He doesn't go to another London club. It's only Manchester United or nothing. And it's only this season or nothing. If he doesn't sell in this season, and Daniel Levy would bank on the fact that he could probably get him to sign a new contract, because this is the last chance for Harry Kane to leave Spurs.
No, I completely agree. Before I come to you, Ben, I'd just like to say I think sadly Kane will leave. I mean, in the summer. I mean, it's come out a bit today. And I really think he wants Conte gone as well. And I think Pochettino is the only person convinced him to stay. You can't blame him, though. Man United worries me. I mean, Weghorst isn't a long-term number 9, surely. As I said, I think Qatari owners coming in, that'd be a big thing. But even the Glazers, I mean, they went for Casemiro. They were put under pressure by United fans, but they've proven they can do it. Just need under that bit of pressure. Chelsea worry me. I mean, as much, I don't think Levy or Kane, I don't think Levy want to do business with Chelsea and sell him to run a rival club. You know that problems it cause for him, especially. Kane won't want to do that. But if Chelsea come in, like they do, and say 150 million for Kane, I can't see Levy saying no to that, not being funny. I mean, that is the worry for me. I think he deserves better. I think the club have failed him, sadly. But Ben, will Kane leave in the summer?
I think it depends on variables. I think Pochettino comes in, I think he probably stays. Not saying definitely, but I think he's a lot more likely. I still think he may stay. If Conte, obviously it's not going to happen. We all know Conte's not staying. If Conte committed, I think if Conte was staying, I think Harry Kane probably would still stay. But obviously, we all know that's not going to happen. I think it depends also if Man U are really desperate for Victor Osimhen from Napoli.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the thing with Harry Kane is, for Man U, as much as it'd be brilliant, is with Ten Hag's style, he needs a runner, and Kane's not going to have the legs for the amount of money he'd cost for that short-term investment. You could, but then I see Luke's argument. If it's this Qatar group coming in, is any money they spend ever going to matter? Is a good point. So I can see that argument as well. If I'm honest, it's a very difficult one. I don't think it's something you can say yes or no, because I think it's so dependent on things we don't know yet. If I'm honest,
I think that Ryan Mason coming into the end of the season, though, is a problem for me with Harry Kane.
Yeah,
because in this period of time, we have to do something. And the other problem with Ryan Mason coming in is it worries me that if he does get us top 4, that Daniel Levy says, "Do you know what? Let's keep it going."
Yeah.
Have the job.
I'd be interested to see how we get on with Ryan Mason, and it's likely he'll play a back 4, I think, and it'll be interesting to see who he then plays. And I really want to see Christian Romero playing in a back 4, and whether he just drops Dyer or whether Dyer gets a game because he likes him. There's lots of things that I'm a little bit excited about, and also, you get a kind of bounce, don't you, when one manager goes.
Yeah, it's a new manager bounce, and we've only got 10, 11 games left, and new manager, bounce, that could really help. Last thing I want to say on that though is give credit where credit's due. Credit to Levy if he does, sack Conte this week, because I didn't expect him to do it. As much as I want it to happen, I think it's the right thing. I mean, fair play, because it's going to cost. I think he's doing that because I think he spoke to players today, right, on the phone, on the way home to training. Has he lost the dressing room? And I think we know that he's pretty much lost the dressing room. I don't think the players, knowing the players that we've got, will take that reaction very well. I think he'd do that thinking, we're not going to get top 4, new manager bounce. So yeah, credit for him for doing that. I think that is probably the best way. But I've got another little statistic here for you. Spending under our last 3 managers. Jose Mourinho had 131 million on 10 players. Nuno, we don't like to speak about him, he had 57 million on 5 players. And Antonio Conte, who had the most, 192 million. But people use this as a negative because it's on 14 players. That's a total of 380 million spent. That doesn't include add-ons, by the way. 380 million spent over our last 2 managers. So, Luke, I know we have a lot of discussions on this on Part Lane podcasts, but is the recruitment the main issue? Because for me, the investment's there. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think that you have to look at that recruitment, and you have to look at
what they're doing.
Daniel Levy and the board in general. In that,
definitely.
Paratici to some level. We don't know really what goes on. Nobody knows. And I was sick of hearing people say this wasn't an Antonio Conte signing and all the rest of it, right? Any of those players that were over 6 foot in height was an Antonio Conte signing. And I'll tell you why, because Antonio Conte absolutely fucking loves a tall player, and he loves someone that can ruffle off a few feathers. That's what I was expecting to see from the likes of Romero, Richarlison, and other players like that. I was expecting, not so much this Romero's kind of like gung-ho approach, but I was expecting a lot more feathers ruffled, a lot more hard-fought wins, a lot more clean sheets, a lot more of that. I expected to see a team that was, excuse my language again, but a shithouse team, that just went in and just messed a few people up and got people really annoyed and won games. And we saw none of that. We saw passive, boring, turgid, horrible football that nobody liked to play. And it is what it is. But I think that the argument that Antonio Conte wasn't backed, no one will ever know what backing Antonio Conte meant. But spending nearly 200 million, and I don't give a toss what you say about, that included Romero's buyout, Romero's fee, and all the rest of it. It's all nonsense. If he wanted Udogie, that's why we got Udogie. I don't believe that's a signing that the club would make on its own, and I'm excited to see him next season. And I'm excited to see Perisic gone as well, because he'll go. Perisic will go in the summer, without a doubt. He's gone, and I don't really care either way.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. Ben, how big of an issue is recruitment for you?
Well, it's not just recruitment of players, but it's also terms of things like giving the managers time, because obviously what you say, well, it all comes down to the whole Pochettino thing. If we should have just kept him and accepted that we were going to have an off season and stuck with that, because we've now spent 4 years buying players for different managers. Like I said to you, Harry, before we started, in the last 100 years, Spurs have had 30 managers, and 15 of them have been under the 23 years of Levy and Enoch. And that just shows how they're not football people. Look at Arteta. I know we all say, oh, we all like to have a laugh at Arsenal, but they've not spent Man City money. They've had a manager and they've let him bring in exactly who he wants. I think it's something like only 2 players from Unai Emery, or it's either Wenger or Emery, I don't know who. It's probably Emery. Only 2 players are still there, yet we've got players that were here in 2013 and weren't good enough then. Yet we're not just the owners, but as a fan base, we expect any manager. It's not a criticism, they say, just of Conte, but of other things, sort of for other managers. We expect all these different managers to work wonders with players who've never been good enough. And eventually, as Spurs fans, we're going to have to give a manager time, no matter how bad we think the situation is. We're just going to have to let a manager go through it. You look at Arsenal. I know Spurs fans get annoyed people saying look at Arsenal, but they lost 9 games in a row under Arteta, and they still backed him because they thought we're on this process with him. We know it's going to be crap. At the start of Arteta, the football was boring. He didn't have the players to play progressive football like Spurs don't.
Yeah, but question for you, Ben, though, on that, sorry. Can you see us, like, for what Arsenal done with Arteta? Obviously, I hate to use the example, like you say, but you have to. The top of the league. I mean, that is the example. I hate to say it, but it is. Can you see that happening for us with Ryan Mason, Yaya Toure, maybe Vincent Kompany, maybe Michael Carrick? Considering I call Arteta was when they appointed him the young progressive manager. Can you see it working with Tottenham? Do you do that with any of those 4 or 5 managers I just listed? Will it work?
The fans don't have the patience, in my opinion. I don't think the fan base have the patience. It's very easy saying it when we think it's a nice idea, but if we brought, I don't know, I'm not saying he's everyone's first pick, we brought Enrique in, the football's not going to be brilliant from day one. It's going to take ages to get the football to be how he wants it to be. I'm just using him an example because of his. But he plays much better football in terms of his sort of pass and move football. What I'm saying is, you're going to have to, at some point, you're just going to have to back a manager to get the players for his style over a certain period of time. 18 months, say with Conte, not long enough, unless you literally spent like Man City money. You think Pep at City, he had that season where they finished just scraped 4th, and he spent 200 million quid on fullbacks. So the reason he was able to do it is because Man City have just basically got unlimited funds because they somehow hide their sponsors through different companies and stuff so that they can fake their revenues. Because we all know there's no way Man City make more money than Man United and Real Madrid. We all know that. There's no way that can be possible with their fan base. But that's the thing. They had the patience. Obviously, it's not so much with Pep because City can spend what they want, but with Arteta, they've had the patience with a manager because they've just accepted it's going to be crap. Whereas with the Spurs fan base, the minute it goes wrong, and it partly stems from the top because we all know Levy's not a football person. With Pochettino, the reason he panicked is because he thought, oh, crap, we're not going to get top 4, so he pulled the plug. But if you just realise the cycle will come to an end, he's going to have to start again fresh. The team had got too old for his style. We're just going to have to start again. Then we might not be in this situation. We might be higher up the league now because we backed the manager and had his players. Because we get Pochettino in. Pochettino might not rate half the players we have now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you both. I agree with both what you say. But before we wrap this up, to go a bit off topic, to end on a bit of a interesting because you've got lots of problems with Spurs at the moment. But an interesting question had in the comments. I think it's a good way to end. I'm going to put you both on the spot, by the way, so prepare yourselves. Guys, if you could take one player from each of the big six, who would you take? I'm going to come to you first, Luke. Nothing better than putting you on the spot, so go for it.
Right, so I have to take one player from each top six club.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's the current top six or the so-called top
I'll
six.
just do like standard top six. So like,
right, okay, go on.
Yeah, so I'll say Edison from City, Salah from Liverpool, Saliba from Arsenal.
Sleeper.
Yeah, I would take. I think him and Romero in a back two would be outstanding.
Yeah.
Who else are we looking at? Chelsea. Who would I take from Chelsea?
Kante when he's fit.
Huh?
Fit Kante.
Yeah, maybe. Do you know what? I kind of covering two positions. I'm covering the same real positions, aren't I? But I would maybe take a Hakim Ziyech. Or maybe Reece James. There's a couple of players maybe I would take. United, probably Casemiro at the moment. Have I got any more?
No, I think you've done it. Ben, go for it.
Yeah. What about Liverpool?
Oh, you got Liverpool, yeah. Sorry.
Salah.
Oh, yeah, Salah. Yeah, my bad.
Salah, yeah. Go on, Ben.
Chelsea, or it's difficult. That is quite hard, Chelsea. Maybe Thiago Silva. I'd probably say Thiago Silva.
Good shout, actually.
It'd be Thiago Silva or Reece James. Man City. I'm Eric Laporte. Might sound odd, but I don't know what's gone wrong. I don't know what's gone wrong with him at Pep. Pep falls out of everybody. Out of everybody. I think he's the perfect ball-playing defender we need. Arsenal, it's either Partey or Ødegaard. I'd probably take Ødegaard because it's more of a position we're going to need because obviously we're going to get another manager. Let's be honest, he's leaving, Conte. Liverpool, I would take... that's quite difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult.
I'd be tempted to take Alexander Arnold and play him in midfield. Not as a right back. I would not play him as a right back. Oh no. Liverpool, Alisson. Let's take Alisson because I didn't take Edison at City. Who have I done? I've done Arsenal. I've done Liverpool, Man United, Casemiro, 100%.
Yeah, I threw Newcastle in there. If I threw Newcastle, who would that be for you?
Oh, Bruno Guimaraes, without a doubt. Yeah. He's a world-class midfielder.
Yeah.
He's absolutely brilliant.
I think you've done it.
Am I missing anything?
No, I don't think so. No, I think you've done yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine. I mean, I even had time to prepare, and I'm struggling here. I'll go through the league table and obviously add Chelsea in. You have to scroll down to the second page to see Chelsea, by the way. First, you've got Arsenal. For me, Ødegaard. I think we don't have that Ødegaard, the Eriksen, the Maddison. I keep saying it, De Bruyne. Much I hate him, Bruno Fernandes as well. We need that creativity. For me, Ødegaard. Manchester City. May sound strange, but realistically, I don't know if I'd take anyone. I mean, obviously, they've got big names in there, but I'm not going to be, ridiculous. I would take anyone. I'm really struggling.
You wouldn't take... Oh... No, you wouldn't take any of their midfielders over Højbjerg?
No. I would take Erling Haaland and play him and Harry Kane as the front two.
No. Haaland's the last person on my list.
As a two up front.
Haaland's the last name on my list. I'm going for Edison. I'm going for Edison now. Man United, Casemiro, if that's easy. Newcastle, Guimaraes edges it over Botman. Who else haven't I said? Chelsea. Again, apart from Reece James, and we go for Reece James, but I won't take anyone. Have I missed anyone out?
Silva.
No, clubs. No, Thiago Silva's aging. He's not as good as Romero. Personally.
Much better than Dyer and Clement Longap.
Yeah, I suppose so. You can have that.
Badia Shields.
Huh?
Badia Shields a better centre back than we have.
Or maybe it's a completely other discussion. Good evening, Jamie. Shout out to you. I think that kind of sums up today's, kind
Hey,
of
what about Liverpool?
show.
What about Liverpool? Mate?
Oh yeah, Liverpool again. They're too far down. You forget about them. Again, would I take anyone? Alexander-Arnold, no. I mean, for me, it's between. Luke, shake your head. For me, it's between Alisson. There's no one in their midfield that gets anywhere near Højbjerg, and for me, it's the same with City as well. De Bruyne has got no consistency. Rodri, I don't rate. Liverpool.
You wouldn't play a front three of Son, Kane, and Salah.
Salah's inconsistent. Look at him this season, though. You can't put someone who's in worse form than Son in the team. I'm struggling here. I'm gonna go. Did I say Edison for City?
Yeah, you don't want to go big Verge?
I'm gonna go for Van Dijk, but I'm still convinced that Romero is better than him. But that's a completely other discussion. But yeah, that is pretty much is everything for today's show. I mean, we did get time to go through some things, but as I said, I thought the main focus would be on Conte. But I'm going to ask you both before you go. Prediction for Everton, 2 weeks' time on Monday the 3rd of April. Who knows who's going to be our manager there? Who knows where we'll be in 2 weeks' time? We don't know where we're going to be tomorrow. Luke, score prediction, 2 weeks' time.
3-0 Spurs.
Wow. Ben, I'm surprised.
New manager, new formation.
True. You know what I'm going to say. Go on. You know what I'm going to say. Go on, Ben.
That's difficult. Maybe 2-0, maybe 2-1 Spurs.
Yeah.
Or 1-0 Everton.
Okay. I haven't said yet. Well, it depends. With Conte, I think we go to Goodison Park and get absolutely thumped and turned over. With a new manager, that gives me a little bit of confidence. But I don't know why. It may sound stupid, but the thought of going to Goodison Park, on a Monday night, frightens me a little bit, to be honest with you. I think we're losing the game. I can't see us winning the game. 2-1 Everton. A bit more positive, but if that's 2-1 to Everton under Ryan Mason, but it's 3-0 Everton under Conte. I mean, there's a difference. A little bit of difference there. But thank you both for coming on today's show. But end it just there with that strange little comment. Luke, where can people find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on YouTube at Park Lane Podcast, on TikTok, on Twitter, at Park Lane Pod. We do a show every Saturday morning talking about Spurs. Harry's on most weeks. So, yeah, if you liked what I have to say, join. If you don't like what I have to say, subscribe anyway, because I could do with your subscribers, to be honest.
Well, not if you like what Luke says. If you agree with me as well, don't forget to check out Park Lane Podcast. I think I'm right, but hey ho, we enjoy the discussions and we enjoy the debates. So go check us out, Park Lane Podcast. On most Saturdays, I'll be back shortly. Ben, where can people find you on social media?
In your replies to your tweets.
Well, yeah. We have plenty of discussions, that's for sure.
My Twitter handle on the screen. I'm considering maybe starting TikTok or YouTube myself.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. So
nice one.
People might hear about that at some point.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. Yeah, nice one. Thank you both for coming on. Ben, I mean, you are mostly in my replies. We get on, as you know, we're very close, but we do have some very different opinions, especially as we found out today when it comes down to Conte. But thank you both for having you on. Yeah, definitely. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new on the route, if I'm correct, to 350 subs. Gained about 10, 20 subs over the last week or so, so appreciate the support. I mean, if you're talking 2023, we gained over 150. So appreciate the support. And check both Luke and Ben out, like I said, on social media. But as we always say on this channel, come on you Spurs.
Leave me out.